Okay, in this final video of this four-part series on the Tang Shi 300首, or 300 Tang poems, compiled in 1763, I will be reading the last three sections of this work, sections 6, 7, and 8. And if you haven't reviewed or listened to the first video in which I explain all the major terms and the background information and so forth, go back and listen to that before you listen to this final video. Section 1 of this anthology included the wuyan gushi types, 35 of those poems. Section 2 were the yuefu poems. Section 3, qiyan gushi poems, 28 of those in that section. 24 is the second section of yuefu poems, or music bureau poems. Section 5 included wuyan lüshi. Lüshi is the regulated verse form that has 8 lines in each poem. In this section that I'm about to read right now, section 6, we have qiyan lüshi, or the heptasyllabic lüshi regulated forms, 54 poems in all. And then the final two sections are of the jueju, or the cut off or curtailed, the shortest poetic form of the Tang Dynasty, which has only 4 lines. And section 7 is the wuyan jueju, or 5 pentasyllabic jueju, and the final section 8 is qiyan jueju, or heptasyllabic jueju with 7 syllables, or 7 Chinese characters in each line. Okay, so now I am about to read section 6, starting with poem 170. Okay, so we'll read, in this video I'm going to try to get through the rest of the poem, so 170 all the way to the end, so I'm going to read as quickly as possible, and you can adjust the speed settings to make it listenable. Okay, poem 170 is the first of the qiyan lüshi regulated verse type. This one is by Zhou, one of the minor poets in this collection. And by the way, I don't introduce the poets in any of these videos. I don't give the sort of biographical information about them. You can do that on your own. And hopefully we'll make a separate video at some point in which I introduce Li Bai, talk about his characteristics, his poetic qualities that he shows in his poems, and also some biographical information of Li Bai and Bai Joey and some of the other major poets of this collection, but I'm not going to do that here. Okay, poem 170 by Zhou is called The Yellow Crane Terrace. Where long ago a yellow crane bore a sage to heaven, nothing is left now but the yellow crane terrace. The yellow crane never revisited earth, and white clouds are flying without him forever. Every tree in Hanyang becomes clear in the water, and Parrot Island is a nest of sweet grasses. But I look toward home, and twilight grows dark with a mist of grief on the river waves. Okay, poem 171 is a qiyan lüshi, so a heptasyllabic regulated verse with 8 lines by Zhou again. This one is called Passing Through Huayin. Lords of the capital, sharp, unearthly, the great flowers 3 points pierce through heaven. Clouds are parting above the temple of the warring emperor. Rain dries on the mountain, on the giant's palm. Ranges and rivers are the strength of this western gate, whence roads and trails lead downward into China. O pilgrim of fame, O seeker of profit, why not remain here and lengthen your days? Poem 172 is a qiyan lüshi by the poet Zhou, one of the minor poets in the collection. This one is called Looking Toward an Inner Gate of the Great Wall. My heart sank when I headed north from Yan country, to the camps of China echoing with bugle and drum. In an endless cold light of massive snow, tall flags on 3 borders rise up like a dawn. War torches invade the barbarian moonlight. Mountain clouds like chairmen bear the great wall from the sea. Though no youthful clerk meant to be a great general, I throw aside my writing brush, like the student who tossed off cap for lariat. I challenge what may come. Poem 173 is a qiyan lüshi by the poet Li Qi, one of the minor poets of the collection. This one is called A Farewell to Wei Wang. The traveler's parting song sounds in the dawn. Last night a first frost came over the river. and the crying of the wild geese grieves my sad heart, bounded by a gloom of cloudy mountains. Here in the gate city day will flush cold, and washing flails quickened by the gardens at twilight. How long shall the capital content you, where the months and the years go vainly by? Poem 174 is a qiyan lüshi, so 8 lines, regulated verse by the poet Shou. This one is called A Climb on the Mountain Holiday to the Terrace Whence One Sees the Magician, a poem sent to Vice Prefect Liu. The Han Emperor Wen bequeathed us this terrace, which I climb to watch the coming dawn. Cloudy peaks run northward in the 3 Jin districts, and rains are blowing westward through the 2 Ying valleys. Who knows but me about the guard at the gate, or where the magician of the riverbank is, or how to find that magistrate, that poet who is as fond as I am of chrysanthemums and wine cups? So 8 lines there. Poem 175 is a qiyan lüshi by Li Bai, arguably probably the most famous poet in this whole collection. This one is a lüshi called On Climbing in Nanjing to the Terrace of Phoenixes. Phoenixes that played here once, so that the place was named for them, have abandoned it now to this desolate river. The paths of Wu Palace are crooked with weeds. The garments of Qing are ancient dust. Like this green horizon having the 3 peaks, splitting in half the 3 peaks, like this island of white egrets dividing the river, a cloud has arisen between the light of heaven and me, to hide this city from my melancholy heart. Poem 176 is a qiyan lüshi by the poet Gao Shi, one of the major poets in the collection. This one is called To Vice Prefects Li and Wang, Degraded and Transferred to Xiazhong and Changsha. What are you thinking as we part from one another, pulling in our horses for the stirrup cups? Do these tear streaks mean Wu Valley monkeys all weeping, or wild geese returning with news from Hung Mountain? On the river between green maples an autumn sail grows dim. There are only a few old trees by the wall of the white god city. But the year is bound to freshen us with a dew of heavenly favor. Take heart, we shall soon be together again. Poem 177 is a qiyan lüshi by the major poet of this collection, Chen. And this one is called An Early Audience at the Palace of Light, Harmonizing Secretary Jia Zhi's Poem. Cock crow, the purple road cold in the dawn. Linnet songs, curt roofs tinted with April. At the Golden Gate morning bell, countless doors open, and up the jade steps float 8,000 officials with flowery scabbards. Stars have gone down. Willows are brushing the dew from the flags, and alone on the lake of the Phoenix, a guest is chanting too well the song of the bright spring. Poem 178 is a qiyan lüshi by the major poet of this collection, Wang Wei. This one is called An Early Audience at the Palace of Light, Harmonizing Secretary Jia Zhi Poem. The red-capped cockman has just announced morning. The keeper of the robes brings jade cloud furs. Heaven's 9 doors reveal the palace and its courtyards, and the coats of many countries bow to the pearl crown. Sunshine has entered the giant's carven palms. Incense wreathes the dragon robe. The audience adjourns, and the 5-colored edict sets girdle beads clinking toward the lake of the Phoenix. Poem 179 is a qiyan lüshi by Wang Wei again. This one is called Looking Down in a Spring Rain on the Course from Fairy Mountain Palace to the Pavilion of Increase Harmonizing the Emperor's Poem. That might be a typo there on your handout. Round a turn of the Qin fortress winds the Wei River, and yellow mountain foothills enclose the court of China. Past the south gate willows come from the car of many bells. On the upper palace garden road a solid length of blossom. A forbidden city roof holds 2 phoenixes in cloud. The foliage of spring shelters multitudes from rain. And now, when the heavens are propitious for action, here is our emperor ready, no wasteful wanderer. Poem 180 is a qiyan lüshi by Wang Wei again. This one is called In My Lodge at Wangchuang After a Long Rain. The woods have stored the rain, and slow comes the smoke as rice is cooked on faggots and carried to the fields. Over the quiet marshland flies a white egret, and mango birds are singing in the full summer trees. I have learned to watch in peace the mountain morning glories, to eat split dewy sunflower seeds under a bough of pine, to yield the post of honor to any boar at all. Why should I frighten seagulls, even with a thought? Poem 181 is a qiyan lüshi, again by Wang Wei. This one is called Harmonizing a Poem by Palace Attendant Guo. High beyond the thick wall a tower shines with sunset, where peach and plum are blooming and the willow cotton flies. You have heard in your office the court bell of twilight. Birds find perches, officials head for home. Your morning jade will tinkle as you thread the golden palace. You will bring the word of heaven from the closing gates at night. And I should serve there with you, but being full of years, I have taken off official robes and am resting from my troubles. Poem 182 is a qiyan lüshi by the great poet of this collection, Du Fu. This one is called The Temple of the Premier of Shou. Where is the temple of the famous premier? In a deep pine grove near the city of silk, with the green grass of spring coloring the steps, and birds chirping happily under the leaves. The third summons waited him with affairs of state, and to 2 generations he gave his true heart, but before he could conquer he was dead, and heroes have wept on their coats ever since. Poem 183 is a qiyan lüshi, again by Du Fu. This one is called A Hearty Welcome to Vice Prefect Cui. English translated title is slightly different than the original title, you will note on your handout. North of me, south of me, spring is in flood. Day after day I have seen only gulls. My path is full of petals. I have swept it for no others. My thatch gate has been closed, but opens now for you. It's a long way to the market. I can offer you little. Yet here in my cottage there is old wine for all our cups. Shall we summon my elderly neighbor to join us? Call him through the fence and pour the jar dry? Poem 184. I should also note that the translator of this collection worked on the Harvard Poetry Review when he was a student, and he worked alongside the great 20th century American poet Wallace Stevens, and he was very aware of Wallace Stevens' writing throughout his career, and you can sense sort of influences of Wallace Stevens, I think, in his translations of these poems. That's just a side note there. Poem 184 is a qiyan lüshi by Du Fu again, a view of the wilderness. Snow is white on the westward mountains and on 3 fortified towns, and waters in this southern lake flash on a long bridge. But wind and dust from sea to sea bar me from my brothers, and I cannot help crying, I am so far away. I have nothing to expect now but the ills of old age. I am of less use to my country than a grain of dust. I ride out to the edge of town. I watch on the horizon day after day the chaos of the world. Poem 185 is a qiyan lüshi, again by Du Fu. This one is called Both Sides of the Yellow River Recaptured by the Imperial Army. News at this far western station. The north has been recaptured. At first I cannot check the tears from pouring on my coat. Where is my wife? Where are my sons? Yet crazily sure of finding them, I pack my boots and poems, and loud my song and deep my drink, on the green spring, day that starts me home. Back from this mountain, another mountain, past another mountain. Up from the south, north again, to my own town. That was the 8th line. So there are 8 lines in all these. Keep in mind as we read this. 8 lines, 7 Chinese words in each line in the originals. Poem 186 is a qiyan lüshi by Du Fu. Again, this one is called A Long Climb. In a sharp gale from the wide sky, apes are whimpering. Birds are flying homeward over this clear lake in white sand. Leaves are dropping down like the spray of waterfall, while I watch the long river always rolling on. I have come 3,000 miles away. Sad now with autumn, and with my 100 years of woe, I climb this height alone. Ill fortune has laid a bitter frost on my temples. Heartache and weariness are a thick dust in my wine. Poem 187, also a qiyan lüshi by Du Fu. This one is called From an Upper Story. Flowers, as high as my window, hurt the heart of a wanderer, for I see from this high vantage sadness everywhere. The silken river, bright with spring, floats between earth and heaven, like a line of cloud by the jade peak, between ancient days and now. Though the state is established for a while as firm as the North Star, and bandits dare not venture from the western hills, yet sorry in the twilight for the woes of a long-vanished emperor, I am singing the song his premier sang, when still unestranged from the mountain. Poem 188 is also a qiyan lüshi by Du Fu again. This one is called Staying at the General's Headquarters. The autumn night is clear and golden the laka trees of this courtyard. I am lying forlorn in the river town. I watch my guttering candle. I hear the lonely notes of a bugle sounding through the dark. The moon is in mid-heaven, but there's no one to share it with me. My messengers are scattered by whirls of rain and sand. City gates are closed to a traveler. Mountains are walls in my way. Yet I who have borne 10 years of pitiable existence find here a perch, a little branch, and am safe for this one night. Poem 189, also a qiyan lüshi by Du Fu. This one is called Night in the Watchtower. While winter daylight shortens in the elemental scale, and snow and frost whiten the cold circling night, stark sounds the fifth watch with a challenge of drum and bugle. The stars and the river of heaven pulse over the 3 mountains. I hear women in the distance wailing after the battle. I see barbarian fishermen and woodcutters in the dawn. Sleeping dragon, plunging horse are no generals now, they are dust. Hush for a moment, O tumult of the world. Poem 190. Also a qiyan lüshi, regulated verse, heptasyllabic regulated verse by Du Fu. This one is called Poetic Thoughts on Ancient Sites. Forlorn in the northeast among wind and dust, drifting in the southwest between heaven and earth, lingering for days and months in towers and terraces at the 3 gorges, sharing clouds and mountains with the costumes of the 5 streams. The barbarian serving the ruler in the end was unreliable. The wandering poet lamenting the times had no chance to return. Yu Xing throughout his life was most miserable. In his waning years, his poetry stirred the land of rivers and passes. Poem 191 is a qiyan lüshi by Du Fu again. Poetic Thoughts on Ancient Sites, Part 2. Decay and decline. Deep knowledge have I of Sung Yu's grief. Romantic and refined, he too is my teacher. Sadly looking across 1,000 autumns, one shower of tears. Melancholy in different epochs, not at the same time. Among rivers and mountains, his old abode, empty his writings. Deserted terrace of cloud and rain, surely not just imagined in a dream. Utterly the palaces of Chu are all destroyed and ruined. The fishermen pointing them out today are unsure. Poem 192 is a qiyan lüshi, again by Du Fu. This is Thoughts of Old Time, Part 3 of the series sequence. 10,000 ranges and valleys approached the Jing gate, and the village in which the Lady of Light was born and bred. She went out from the purple palace into the desert land. She has now become a green grave in the yellow dusk. Her face, can you picture a wind of the spring? Her spirit by moonlight returns with a tinkling song of the Tartars on her jade guitar, telling her eternal sorrow. Poem 193 is also a qiyan lüshi by Du Fu, and this one is called Poetic Thoughts on Ancient Sites, Part 4. So Part 4 of the sequence. The ruler of Shou had his eyes on Wu and progressed as far as the Three Gorges. In the year of his demise, too, he was in the Palace of Eternal Peace. The blue-green banners can be imagined on the empty mountain. The jade palace is a void in the deserted temple. In the pines of the ancient shrine, aquatic cranes nest. At summer and winter festivals, the comers are village elders. The martial marquis's memorial shrine is ever nearby. In union, sovereign and minister share the sacrifices together. Poem 194 is also a qiyan lüshi by Du Fu, and this is the fifth part of this sequence of the series called Thoughts of Old Time Part 5. Zhuge's prestige transcends the earth. There is only reverence for his face, yet his will among the three kingdoms at war was only as one feather against a flaming sky. He was brother of men like Yi and Lu, and in time would have surpassed the greatest of all statesmen. Though he knew there was no hope for the house of Han, yet he wielded his mind for it, yielded his life. Poem 195 is a qiyan lüshi, and now we have a new poet entering. Not a new poet, we've already read several poems by this poet, Liu Song, and this poem is called On Leaving Guijiang Again to Shui and Liu. Dare I at my age accept my summons, knowing of the world's ways only wine and song? Over the moon-edged river come wild geese from the Tartars, and the thinner the leaves along the Huai, the wider the southern mountains. I ought to be glad to take my old bones back to the capital, but what am I good for in that world, with my few white hairs? As bent and decrepit as you are, I am ashamed to thank you, when you caution me that I may encounter thunderbolts. Poem 196 is a qiyan lüshi by the same poet, Liu Song. This one is called On Passing Jia Yi's House in Changsha. Here, where you spent your 3 years' exile, to be mourned in 10,000 years. Can I trace your footprint in the autumn grass, or only slanting sunlight through the bleak woods? If even good Emperor Wen was cold-hearted, could you hope that the dull river Shang would understand you? These desolate waters, these taciturn mountains, when you came like me so far away? Poem 197 is a qiyan lüshi, again by same poet, Liu Song. This one is called An Evening View of the City of Zhou after coming from Hankou to Parrot Island, a poem sent to my friend Governor Yuan. No ripples in the river, no mist on the islands, yet the landscape is blurred toward my friend in Chu. Birds in the slanting sun cross Hankou, and the autumn sky mingles with Lake Dongting. From a bleak mountain wall, the cold tone of a bugle reminds me, moored by a ruined fort, that Jia Yi's loyal plea to the house of Yang banned him to Changsha to be in exile. Poem 198 is a qiyan lüshi by Chen, whose several poems we have already read earlier. To my friend at the capital, Secretary Pei. Finches flash yellow through the imperial grove of the forbidden city, pale with spring dawn. Flowers muffle a bell in the palace of bliss, and rain has deepened the dragon lake willows. But spring is no help to a man bewildered. who would be like a cloud upholding the light of heaven, yet whose poems 10 years refused are shaming these white hairs held by the petaled pin. Poem 199 is a qiyan lüshi by Wei Yingwu, one of the minor poets of this collection. Again, qiyan lüshi, so 8-lined regulated verse. To my friends Li Dan and Yuan Shi. This one is called To My Friends Li Dan and Yuan Shi. We met last among flowers we parted. And here, a year later, there are flowers again. But, with ways of the world too strange to foretell, spring only brings me grief and fatigue. I am sick, and I think of my home in the country, ashamed to take pay while so many are idle. In my western tower, because of your promise, I have watched the full moons come and go. Poem 200 is a qiyan lüshi by Han Hong, another minor poet in this collection. Inscribed in the Temple of the Wandering Genie is the title. I face, high over this enchanted lodge, the court of the 5 cities of heaven, and I see a countryside blue and still after the long rain. The distant peaks and trees of Qing merge into twilight, and had palace washing stones make their autumnal echoes. Thin pine shadows brush the outdoor pulpit, and grasses blow their fragrance into my little cave. Who need be craving a world beyond this one? Here among men are the purple hills. Poem 201 is a qiyan lüshi by Hang Fu Rang. Spring Thoughts is the title. Finch notes and swallow notes tell the new year, but so far are the town of the horse and the dragon mound. From this our house, from these walls and Han gardens, that the moon takes my heart to the Tartar sky. I have woven in the frame endless words of my grieving, yet this petal bow is smiling now on my lonely sleep. Oh, ask General Zhou when his flags will come home and his triumph will be carved on the rock of Liang Mountain. Alright, poem 202 is a qiyan lüshi by the poet Liu Song. This one is called A Night Mooring at Wuyan. Far off in the clouds stand the walls of Hanyang, another day's journey for my lone sail. Though a river merchant ought to sleep in this calm weather, I listen to the tide at night and voices of the boatmen. My thin hair grows wintry, like the triple Shang streams. 3,000 miles my heart goes, homesick with the moon. But the war has left me nothing of my heritage, and oh, the pangs of hearing these drums along the river. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back in a minute, continuing from poem 203. Okay, continuing poem 203 is a qiyan lüshi by the poet Liu Song. The title is From the City Tower of Liuzhou to my 4 fellow officials at Zhang, Ding, Feng, and Liang districts. At this lofty tower where the town ends, wilderness begins, and our longing has as far to go as the ocean or the sky. Hibiscus flowers by the moat heave in a sudden wind, and vines along the wall are whipped with slanting rain. Nothing to see for 300 miles but a blur of woods and mountain, and the river's 9 loops twisting in our bowels. This is where they have sent us, this land of tattooed people, and not even letters to keep us in touch with home. Poem 204 is a qiyan lüshi by a different poet, by Liu Shi, one of the minor poets in this collection, called Thoughts of Old Time at West Fort Mountain. Since Wang Jun brought his towering ships down from Yizhou. The royal ghost has pined in the city of Nanjing. 10,000 feet of iron chain were sunk here to the bottom, and then came the flag of surrender on the wall of stone. Cycles of change have moved into the past, while still this mountain dignity has commanded the cold river. And now comes the day of the Chinese world united, and the old forts fill with ruin and with autumn reeds. Poem 205 is a qiyan lüshi by Yuan Zhen. This is called an elegy, part 1. O youngest, best loved daughter of Xie, who unluckily married this penniless scholar, you patched my clothes from your own wicker basket, and I coaxed off your hairpins of gold to buy wine with. For dinner we had to pick wild herbs, and to use dry locust leaves for our kindling. Today they are paying me 100,000, and all that I can bring to you is a temple sacrifice. Poem 206 is a qiyan lüshi by the poet Yuan Zhen. This is, same poet Yuan Zhen. This is the second part of his elegy. An elegy, part 2. We joked long ago about one of us dying, but suddenly before my eyes you are gone. Almost all of your clothes have been given away. Your needlework is sealed. I dare not look at it. I continue your bounty to our men and our maids. Sometimes in a dream I bring you gifts. This is a sorrow that all mankind must know, but not as those know it who have been poor together. Poem 207 is the third part of this series by Yuan Zhen, called an elegy, part 3. I sit here alone, mourning for us both. How many years do I lack now of my 70. There have been better men than I, to whom heaven denied a son. There was a poet better than I, whose dead wife could not hear him. What have I to hope for in the darkness of our tomb? You and I have had little faith in a meeting after death, yet my open eyes can see all night that lifelong trouble of your brow. Poem 208 is a qiyan lüshi by the great poet Bai Zhou, who is the the author of Chen, the Song of Unending Sorrow, which we've already read, included in this collection, which is the sort of basis for much of Japanese literature, as I mentioned above. This one is a lüshi, qiyan lüshi, called To My Brothers and Sisters Adrift in Troubled Times, This Poem of the Moon. And it includes a preface that goes as follows. Since the disorders in Henan and the famine in Guanne, my brothers and sisters have been scattered. Looking at the moon, I express my thoughts in this poem, which I send to my eldest brother at Liang, my 7th brother at Yuqian, my 15th brother at Wujian, and my younger brothers and sisters at Fuli and Xiagui. And then the poem begins, My heritage lost through disorder and famine. My brothers and sisters flung eastward and westward. My fields and gardens wrecked by the war. My own flesh and blood become scum of the street. I moan to my shadow like a lone wandering wild goose. I am torn from my root like a water plant in autumn. I gaze at the moon and my tears run down for hearts in 5 places, all sick with one wish. Poem 209 is a qiyan lüshi by Shang. This one is called The Inlaid Harp. I wonder why my inlaid harp has 50 strings, each with its flower-like fret and interval of youth. The sage Zhuangzi is daydreaming, bewitched by butterflies. Reference to Zhuangzi in his episode of The Butterfly, of course, is where he dreams he's a butterfly, or is not sure if he's a butterfly dreaming of himself. The spring heart of Emperor Wang is crying in a cuckoo. Mermen weep their pearly tears down a moon-green sea. Blue fields are breathing their jade to the sun, and a moment that ought to have lasted forever has come and gone before I knew. So that poem includes Taoist themes, Taoist references, Taoist images and so forth. Poem 210 is a qiyan lüshi by Shang again. This one is called To One Unnamed. The stars of last night and the wind of last night are west of the painted chamber and east of Cinnamon Hall. Though I have for my body no wings like those of the bright-colored phoenix, yet I feel the harmonious heartbeat of the sacred unicorn. Across the spring wine, while it warms me, I prompt you how to bet where, group by group, we are throwing dice in the light of the crimson lamp. Till the rolling of a drum, alas, calls me to my duties, and I mount my horse and ride away, like a water plant cut adrift. Poem 211 is a qiyan lüshi, again by Shang. This one is called The Palace of the Sui Emperor. His palace of purple spring has been taken by mist and cloud, as he would have taken all Yangzhou to be his private domain. But for the seal of imperial jade being seized by the first Tang emperor, he would have bounded with his silken sails the limits of the world. Fireflies are gone now, have left the weathered grasses, but still among the weeping willows crows perch at twilight. If he meets there underground the later Chen emperor, do you think that they will mention a song of courtyard flowers? Poem 212, a qiyan lüshi, again by Shang. This one is To One Unnamed, Part 1. You said you would come, but you did not, and you left me with no other trace than the moonlight on your tower at the 5th watch bell. I cry for you, forever gone. I cannot waken yet. I try to read your hurried note. I find the ink too pale. Blue burns your candle in its kingfisher feather lantern, and a sweet breath steals from your hibiscus broidered curtain. But far beyond my reach is the enchanted mountain, and you are on the other side, 10,000 peaks away. Poem 213 is a qiyan lüshi by the poet Shang again. This is part 2 of the series, To One Unnamed, part 2. A misty rain comes blowing with a wind from the east, and wheels faintly thunder beyond Hibiscus Pool. Round the golden-toed lock, incense is creeping. The jade tiger tells on its cord of water being drawn. A great lady once from behind a screen favored a poor youth. A fairy queen brought a bridal mat once for the ease of a prince and then vanished. Must human hearts blossom in spring like all other flowers? And of even this bright flame of love shall there be only ashes? Poem 214 is a qiyan lüshi by Shang again. This one is called In the Camp of the Sketching Brush. Monkeys and birds are still alert for your orders, and winds and clouds eager to shield your fortress. You were master of the brush and a sagacious general, but your emperor, defeated, rode the prison cart. You were abler than even the greatest Zhou statesman, yet less fortunate than the 2 Shou generals who were killed in action. And though at your birthplace a temple has been built to you, you never finished singing your song of the holy mountain. Poem 215 is a qiyan lüshi, again by Shang. This is To One Unnamed, Part 3. This is the 3rd of the series. Time was long before I met her, but is longer since we parted, and the east wind has arisen, and 100 flowers are gone, and the silk worms of spring will weave until they die, and every night the candles will weep their wicks away. Mornings in her mirror she sees her hair cloud changing, yet she dares the chill of moonlight with her evening song. It is not so very far to her enchanted mountain. O bluebirds, be listening. Bring me what she says. Poem 216 is a qiyan lüshi, again by Shang. This one is called Spring Rain. I am lying in a white-lined coat while the spring approaches. but am thinking only of the white gate city where I cannot be. There are 2 red chambers fronting the cold, hidden by the rain, and a lantern on a pearl screen swaying my lone heart homeward. The long road ahead will be full of new hardship, with, late in the nights, brief intervals of dream. Oh, to send you this message, this pair of jade earrings. I watch a lonely wild goose in 3,000 miles of cloud. Poem 217 is a qiyan by the poet Liang again. This is the 4th of the series, 2-1 unnamed, part 4. A faint phoenix tail gauze, fragrant and doubled, lines your green canopy, closed for the night. Will your shy face peer round a moon-shaped fan, and your voice be heard hushing the rattle of my carriage? It is quiet and quiet where your gold lamp dies. How far can a pomegranate blossom whisper? I will tether my horse to a river willow and wait for the will of the southwest wind. Okay, we're going to take another break here at poem 17. We'll continue in a minute. Need another drink of coffee. Okay, poem 218. I'm afraid we're going to have to stop at the end of this section, and then we'll do the jueju in a separate video. Here's poem 218, is a qiyan by the poet Liang again. This is the 5th of the series, 2-1 unnamed, part 5. There are many curtains in your carefree house, where rapture lasts the whole night long. What are the lives of angels but dreams, if they take no lovers into their rooms? Storms are ravishing the nut horns, moon dew sweetening cinnamon leaves. I know well enough naught can come of this union, yet how it serves to ease my heart. Poem 219 is a qiyan by the relatively minor poet Wen Tingyun. Near the Zhou ferry. The sun has set in the water's clear void, and little blue islands are one with the sky. On the bank a horse neighs. A boat goes by. People gather at a willow clump and wait for the ferry. Down by the sand bushes, seagulls are circling. Over the wide river lands flies an egret. Can you guess why I sail like an ancient wise lover through the misty 5 lakes, forgetting words? Poem 220 is a qiyan by Wen Tingyun again. This one is called The Temple of Shou. Though our envoy Shou is gone, body and soul, this temple survives. These trees endure. Wild geese through the clouds are still calling to the moon there, and hill sheep unshepherded graze along the border. Returning, he found his country changed, since with youthful cap and sword he had left it. His bitter adventures had won him no title. Autumn waves endlessly sob in the river. Poem 221 is a qiyan by Shui Feng, one of the minor poets in the collection, a palace poem. It's the title, In 12 chambers the ladies, decked for the day, peer afar for their lord from their fairy view lodge. The golden toad guards the lock on the door chain, and the bronze dragon water clock drips through the morning, till one of them, tilting a mirror, combs her cloud of hair, and chooses new scent in a change of silk raiment. For she sees, between screen panels deep in the palace, eunuchs in court dress preparing a bed. Poem 22 is a qiyan by the relatively minor poet Qing Taoyu. This one is titled A Poor Girl. Living under a thatch roof, never wearing fragrant silk. She longs to arrange a marriage, but how could she dare? Who would know her simple face, the loveliest of them all, when we choose for worldliness, not for worth? Her fingers embroider beyond compare, but she cannot vie with painted brows, and year after year she has sewn gold thread on bridal robes for other girls. Poem 223. It says here that this is a yuefu, but I suspect that it is still a qiyan lüshi because it is still 7 Chinese characters per line and still has 8 lines total. But we'll have to check on this later. At any rate, it's either a yuefu or a qiyan lüshi by the poet Shang Chuan-qi, and it is called Beyond Seeing. Beyond Seeing. A girl of the Liu clan who lives in Goldenwood Hall, where swallows perch in pairs on beams of tortoise shell. Here's the washing mallet's cold beat shake the leaves down. The Liang expedition will be gone 10 years, and messages are lost in the White Wolf River. Here in the city of the Red Phoenix, autumn nights are long, where one who is heartsick to see beyond seeing, sees only moonlight on the yellow silk wave of her loom. Beyond seeing, Fujian. Beyond Fujian is beyond seeing is a translation of Fujian. Right, next poem is poem, what did I say, 224. This is a jueju. Alright, so we're now in the jueju section, so we're going to have to continue. I'm going to pause it here. We will continue from 224 in the next video. The final 2 sections of the work, the wuyan jueju, and the qiyan jueju, the pentasyllabic jueju and the heptasyllabic jueju. We'll do those in the next video. That is all for now. Goodbye.